Thank you for joining us from the Prince George Public Library. I'm Chris Chacon. From scorching wildfires to another civic election, 2018 was a year filled with major events impacting our region. Over the next half hour, we'll show you our top CKPG news stories of the year. Our first story is one that caught the attention of plenty of residents as a pipeline exploded, causing mass confusion and quite the fiery display.
Looks like the pipeline blew up.
It was an explosion that rattled many in the community.
I was coming back up the Hart from a stop in town and I saw this huge flash, so I decided to go check it out. And I drove down by the pulp mill and saw a raging fire. And you could see it over the tree lines, and my girlfriend even called me and you could see it from her back window of her house.
And it was right at Terry TEEGEE's back door.
Well, we heard a loud noise outside our home on the north side of Clayton-Tenay, and was wondering what it was. We thought it might have been a train crash or low-flying jet.
That was around 5:30 this evening. The community of SHELLEY was hastily evacuated. The chief of the Clayton-Tenay, DOMINIC, FREDERICK, has been contacted by the owners of that pipeline.
They had told me that there was a gas buildup in the underground. For some reason or another, the gas had stopped flowing, and it built up and it just exploded.
About 80 or so residents from the SHELLEY Reserve will be out of house and home for a while yet.
The fire is now down. They've shut off the valves. And I also asked them if there was going to be any other explosions because of the low-lying areas, and gas may build up and the fire may go through the pipe, and they said no.
Chief Frederick says he is not interested in sending his community home until he can be assured that it will be safe to do so. CHERYL, JAHN, CKPG News.
The pipeline did end up getting fixed. However, residents were asked to lower their gas consumption heading into the winter months. With well over 500 fires burning in the province and the largest one to the northwest of the city, the 2018 wildfire situation was just enough to catch the attention of our Prime Minister and have him pay a visit to Prince George. Justin Trudeau's visit was the first public one by a sitting Prime Minister in well over 2 decades.
Is requiring us to really reflect on how we can work together better, how we can support each other. I want to recognize...
Under smoky skies, a chance to meet some of those on the front lines of BC wildfires. During his hour-and-a-half visit to Prince George, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau meeting with representatives of the BC Wildfire Service, along with the city, province, regional districts, and Indigenous communities.
It's good to be able to meet people here, thank the first responders, the Operations Center folks, listen to Indigenous communities. Obviously, this is a second really difficult year for wildfires in BC.
Grand Chief Ed John evacuated from his own home in Tache, estimating well over 50% of those who have been evacuated are Indigenous, with 9 communities in total affected through the northwest of BC. His aim to get the message across that First Nations need help.
Basically saying we need resources to be able to respond to crisis situations like this. He was really interested in finding out what the nature of the working relationships were between the municipalities and First Nations and with EMBC and Wildfire BC. So we talked a bit about that.
No promise of federal funding to help fight the fires, and the Prime Minister admitting there needs to be work done when it comes to helping Indigenous communities facing evacuation and possible loss of homes.
Municipalities get resources from the provinces, but when the neighboring Indigenous community turns to the province, well, we need resources. Well, no, your federal responsibility. We have to clear up those lines of flowing resources and ensuring that people get what they need, regardless of whether they're in an Indigenous community or a non-Indigenous community. See and make sure that everyone's collaborating well, as I know they are.
After the brief meeting with officials, Trudeau taking the time to take photos and personally greet the breakfast crowd. A morale booster of sorts for those providing help to evacuees and working long hours fighting the fires.
He came in and thanked everybody for their hard work and just appreciates what's going on and how busy everyone is.
That's one of the best things about my job is that wherever I go in there, times of challenge, I see people who've rolled up their sleeves and are giving it all for their community.
Trudeau's stop in Prince George, a brief one, before getting back on the plane to resume his cabinet retreat in Nanaimo. Catherine HANSEN, CKPG News.
We all know the 2017 wildfire season in BC was a bad one. In fact, it was considered the worst in BC's history. But the 2018 wildfire season was no walk in the park. According to the BC Wildfire Service, more hectares of forest was burned during the season, but fewer people got displaced.
At the peak of the 2018 fire season, just under 5,000 people were working on wildfires around the province.
We had 2,066 fires started this summer. A lot of them were due to lightning, so we had around 1,500 lightning, and then the rest would be human caused of some fashion.
Environmental and structural losses during the 2017 season amounted to $540 million worth of firefighting efforts.
Currently, we're sitting at around $460 million estimated so far this year. So those are still estimates. We won't have a final number until everything gets paid and accounted for.
According to fire officials, the majority of money spent is on aviation.
At the height of the fire season this year, we had 270 aircrafts on roster. And so those are expensive pieces of machine to run. So a lot of the cost does go into aviation, and with the Northwest Fire Center using a lot of aircraft to do retardant drops and as well water skimming. And they had a lot of interface fires this summer.
Support to fight the fires came from across Canada, as well as from Australia, New Zealand, Mexico, and the United States.
We did a lot of managing, bringing everyone in. Prince George is a really good marshalling point. So not only did we have people come and then stay working in the Prince George Fire Center, we also had people go to the Northwest Fire Center and down south. So we had a lot of people come through our fire center.
The total cost is still being tallied. The BC Wildfire Service will not have a final number until everything gets paid and accounted for. Dave Branco, CKPG News.
If you thought Trudeau's visit was a big one, how about his government legalizing marijuana? Yeah, that was a big one as well, and not just for BC, but for the entire country.
It all depends on... For some, it's like being a kid in a candy store.
Just play around with it. If the pot drops aren't enough, take more. But
while Zaga's hemp shop doesn't sell marijuana yet, that didn't stop shoppers from stopping by to check. It was a busier morning than usual Wednesday, as marijuana is officially legal nationwide.
We've actually had a lot of people starting to inquire a little bit more about it, kind of checking it out and feeling around about it, and people maybe that had smoked 30 years ago and, you know, don't want to do anything illegal, perhaps want to try it a little bit now again. So I think it will. It'll be good for business, and I just think it'll be more open.
And you're still just bronzing?
Zaga's owner, Ginny Burnett, says all kinds of people frequent the shop from age 19 to 90. She says legalization will not only be good for business, but for Canada's economy through sales and tourism. For now, Zaga's only sells the accessories, as the only legal pot shop in BC is in Kamloops.
I'm so disappointed. BC, we should have been way ahead of the curve. We should have been like ready to go at midnight last night, and it's really unfortunate. My heart kind of sank. I felt bad for our whole province that it went this way, but can't rush it, I guess. The government is the government. Everything takes time.
But the store has filed an official application to the province. That is step one. The rules around pot shops locally are identical to liquor licensing bylaws. Their locations will depend on the proximity to schools and each other. However, it could be a few months before shops open in the city.
We're just waiting for confirmation. The first people that have been approved by the province, they will notify us, and then it will be up to the applicant to come in and start a rezoning process. It should take up to 4 months to get a rezoning approved. By the time we do circulations to different departments, external groups like the RCMP for their comments, and then we go forward for first two readings to council for them to consider.
For now, Prince George residents looking to spark up will have to order online and wait 3 to 5 business days. KENDALL, Robertson, CKPG News.
And still to come on our top stories of the year, it was an election year and council welcomed some new faces to the table. Welcome back. 2018 came with a lot of excitement, but also sadness. A young international student at the College of New Caledonia was struck and killed while crossing Highway 97. With her passing, plenty of students rallied in a show of support demanding change for improved safety on the highway where she was tragically killed.
Outside CNC, the flag flies at half-mast, and inside a memorial is set up to remember Sandeep Kaur, an international student at the school who had been in the city just 2 months. She was struck and killed while crossing Highway 97 between 18th and 22nd Avenues.
It was a very difficult conversation. This is a very difficult time for us here at CNC, and we're doing the best we can to support students, particularly the witnesses that have been impacted by this, and our employees.
RCMP collision analysts and the coroner's office continue to investigate. The 47-year-old driver of the vehicle who struck Kaur is now facing charges.
The driver has been identified as Michelle Dack. She was arrested at the scene, and she has since been charged with impaired driving causing death. And she was released last night with an upcoming court date.
While support is being offered to those in the CNC community who are mourning, there is a cry for something to be done about those crossing the highway off a common path in front of the school. That path now being blocked off in the hopes to prevent further tragedies.
It's a sad event that happened. We're hoping that the Ministry of Transportation will take some measures and make sure do something to fix the entire patch from 15th Avenue to 22nd Avenue, because a lot of people do that, including students, including staff, including myself. And I think at this point we would like the ministry to step up and fix that issue so that it doesn't happen again.
The CNC Student Union is fundraising for Kaur's family, and a prominent member of the Indo-Canadian community in Prince George has set up a GoFundMe page to help send her body back to India. In only 12 hours, the page raising $27,000 and continuing to grow. Catherine Hansen, CKPG News.
A fence has since been installed to prevent those crossing the highway. Hundreds of residents made their way to the polls for the 2018 civic election. While it was a busy one, by the end of the night, some new faces were elected to join the council table. And while change is always a good thing, some things will stay the same.
The stress is off. I'm ready to go.
That was Lynn Hall upon learning he topped 11,000 votes in his bid for re-election as mayor. In fact, all of the incumbents who ran were re-elected. They are Brian SKAKUN, Terry McConaughey, Garth Frizzell, Susan Scott and Frank Everett. Two new faces will grace council chambers over the course of the next 4 years. They are Kyle Sampson and Corey Ramsey.
When we take a look at the makeup of council, it really reflects where we're going as a community. I've talked a lot about how vibrant our community is and what's going on in our community, and I think you saw with the addition of Mr. Sampson and Ms. Ramsey, I think you're seeing sort of a reflection of what's taking place in our community.
Murray Krause was also re-elected and has over 2 decades of civic life under his belt. He suspects the fact that all 6 incumbents were returned to council speaks volumes.
All through the campaign, we heard people say, we really liked, the last council, what they accomplished, and how people got along and worked together and actually got things done. So I think it, obviously the way people voted, that's the way it turned out. And we got 2 younger folks, and I think that's really important.
Krause says the new council will need to build on some successes, such as the ongoing development in the city, topping out at $160 million already. But that does not mean there aren't issues to grapple with moving forward.
We have ongoing, big projects on the go. We have ongoing housing affordability issues. We have ongoing, just like every community in the province does. So it really is about good governance, and it's about really getting the job done.
The ongoing sinkhole issue at Winnipeg and Kearney Streets is a glaring example of what Mayor Hall considers to be a significant concern moving ahead for the new council.
There's a number of big issues, but the infrastructure is going to be huge, and we want to take our time in going through the infrastructure needs after November 5th. We want to get that information out to the public so they understand the complexity of it and what it means. And then we have budget coming up in January 2019.
Councillors will be officially sworn in during a special ceremony on November 5th. CHERYL, JAHN, CKPG News.
Coming up in our top stories of the year, it was a sinkhole that not only disrupted traffic but seemed to not want to go away. Welcome back. Not once, not twice, but 4. That is how many times a sinkhole at Winnipeg and Kearney appeared before the city had enough and literally wanted to get to the bottom of the issue.
Winnipeg Street hasn't looked this good since May, when a small sinkhole started to develop and got bigger by the day. But at last, the end of that project is near.
By the view behind us, we're in the final stages of restoration for this piece at the intersection. So pavement went down this week and line painting this morning. Final bits and pieces of concrete are happening as we speak, and the last pieces will be the traffic control. So there's one more pole to go up and reactivating the lights.
The parking lot of the Gateway Community Church served as a muster station at times, and the parking lot was a frequent thoroughfare for drivers. But rather than get angry, they decided to have a little fun with it.
We did a series in September called Pitfalls, and I actually took a picture of the pit and put it right on there, and it was just a great a series about, you know, just the things in life that can kind of trap us or suck us in, and we don't even realize it, and all of a sudden we're comparing to other people or just doing things that we don't want to do.
This was not the first sinkhole to develop at that location. The first was back in July of 2014. By the 4th sinkhole at the same place this past May, it was clear the problem was much bigger than initially thought. But Josh Kelly had no idea as to the extent of the problem.
I think that was the biggest challenge, or one of the biggest challenges with this project, was actually finding out what was going wrong. So every time we got down a little farther, it was a new battle with water, it was a new battle with sediment or something. But yes, when we got down there, it was amazing that the pipe was still able to keep its shape. So yeah, it was quite astounding to see the damage that the water and a little bit of dirt can do.
It was a lot of hard work to fix that sinkhole. In 2018, the city also worked hard on another project. I'm talking about renovations at Massage Place Stadium. With such a nice new stadium, the city decided to tighten up the rules around the use of Massage before it opened, but that didn't sit well with many residents.
The city is tightening up the rules around the use of Massage Place Stadium. Just this morning, a crew of forest firefighters accidentally got onto the track to do some training, but were ushered out. Public access to that new facility has become very contentious. Details of the operational plan for Massage now show it will be open to the public from 6 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon.
There's people that work shift work, there's people that, you know, have mobility issues that might not be able to get there earlier in the day. There's people that work daytime, they want to come in the evening. So to say that they can only do it for roughly half the time they did before, plus we're going to hire at least one person, possibly more, to work half the day, I'm really challenged with that.
The former track was open from dawn till dusk. It has people shaking their heads.
So what do we do after work? So we don't get to use it after work. Yeah, no, I would say I'm 100% against that. That's not very cool whatsoever. I work shift work, so some days that would work for me and other days that wouldn't, and I used to run there all the time. So no, I would say I'd be fully against that timeline for sure.
So what's it being used for all the other times? Like, well, if it's not being used, then I think that the public should be able to use it whenever they want to, right? We're paying for it, right? Yeah, so if we're paying for it, then we should be able to use it.
I know that whenever I wanted to go over there, it was open to go walking, especially from the gym and stuff. If you want to go for a run or a walk after your workout, it's nice to come outside. Yeah. And now, you know, if we work during the day mostly all the time, so we won't get to use it.
The city did end up adjusting the hours to accommodate the public. And coming up next, 2018 was also a year of celebration, and many in PG did so with the Stanley Cup. It was an exciting year in the NHL as the Washington Capitals won the Stanley Cup. But what's even more exciting is that among the champions was former Cougar Brett Connolly, who immediately began working with the Cougars organization and the city of Prince George to bring the cup to town. After all that planning, the day finally came.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brett Connolly and the Stanley Cup.
Quite the day at the CN Center as former Prince George Cougar Brett Connolly gave hockey fans a reason to file into the arena on this sunny summer afternoon. The Stanley Cup champion raising the cup for the city that raised him after winning it with the Washington Capitals back on June 7th.
It means a lot. This means so much for this city, and it means a lot for me to see everybody come down and support me. There's a lot of people here that have supported me a long time.
Connolly did his best to give local hockey fans as much time as possible to pose with him and the cup. Among those fans was a former hockey player himself, Mayor Lynn Hall.
You always, you watch the NHL, you watch the Stanley Cup Series, and to see it right there, just a few feet in front of you is pretty special. And I can't imagine how Brett feels. He should be very proud, and I know he is.
How many of you here have ever dreamed of winning the Stanley Cup? Oh, come on, adults, get your hands up there.
The day featured short speeches from local dignitaries and hockey fanatics before Connolly entered on the Fanboni, accompanied by family and friends, as well as 3 evacuees displaced to the CN Center due to the wildfire evacuations.
Just trying to help out in any way we can. So, those are people having a scary time right now, and hopefully we can put a smile on their face.
With a historic trophy like Lord Stanley's Cup in the building, there was no shortage of smiles on this day as Prince George celebrated their hockey hero and the hardware he brought along with him. Jesse McGowan, CKPG News.
Thank you for watching our top stories of the year. Join us in the new year for the CKPG News weekdays at noon, 5, 6:30, and 11.